there, howdy, and giddy up partners for Retro Repair Roundup number 15. Remember, thank you for stopping by. And lasso that like button, smash the subscribe button, and all of those other YouTube things so that make sure that YouTube shows the channel, whatever, you know the thing, do the buttons. So, welcome to Retro Repair Roundup. Tonight, we have a couple of super awesome guests. We've got Thomas and Jeff of the FujiNet project here to talk to us about FujiNet, which is a super duper awesome way to connect Ataris and other stuff together over the internet to do magical, awesome things. I'm going to leave it at that because I'll let them describe the details here in a little bit. So, of course, we have our guests, or our hosts. We got Javier here, we got Rudy here, we got me here. Ron could not be here tonight because, as some of you may or may not know, Ron is also an actor, and he is actually on set filming today, so he could not be here tonight. But he sends his well wishes. We tried to find a way to have him here as a guest or as a person, but it didn't work. So we will have to light the Ron candle in his honor.
Yes, he had that Friar Tuck haircut thing done.
Dude.
Watch his short video.
Yeah, watch the short. It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, and watch out for the new movie to come out called Rocket Robin Hood featuring Ron in it.
So, Javier, are you going to redo the candle using
I think I will, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, hell yeah.
Hair? Because that hair is rocking. I'm
That's
telling you.
perfect. Yep.
It literally looks like Friar Tuck from Robin Hood.
He's going to start a new fad.
That's right.
No, I'm keeping mine.
I'm ready.
You guys already started. I'm
I got a bloomer on the front. That's all.
Yeah, we need something on the front.
We should have just like put some hair right here on the hats.
Yeah.
I thought the hats were just a gimmick.
That is awesome. So tonight, again, I want to welcome our guests, Thomas and Jeff. They are the forerunners of the FujiNet project, again, that allows you to get awesome old computers on the internets and do really cool things with them. So we will start by saying hello to Thomas and tell us a little bit about you and what brought you to this wonderful road of FujiNet.
Well, hi guys. My name's Tom Cherryhomes, and my day job is basically I do DevOps R&D for Ericsson Global. So big telecommunications conglomerate, build automation for all of that stuff. My love of retro computing, however, has been pretty much constant throughout my entire life. I never actually stopped. That was the weird thing. And the FujiNet project is essentially my way of trying to give back after all these years of participating in various retro computing communities. So really, that's kind of it. I'm kind of a Swiss Army knife hacker type, just mostly software development and just problem solver. So, yeah.
Cool. Awesome sauce. And
Nice.
Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself too and let everybody know who you are and why you're here.
Great. Thanks very much. I'm Jeff Pietmeyer. I grew up around computers. My dad was he was a systems analyst for control data, and I remember when I was 5. In fact, his computer is at the Living Computer Museum. He worked on the Purdue machine when he was in grad school, and
That's awesome.
I never got to see it, but I did get to log into it. And but unfortunately, he's not with us, so he never got to see it up and running again. But yeah, I remember. I mean, ever since I was 5 years old, he'd bring home the Silent 700, and eventually he got me an Atari, and then I switched over to Amiga. But then, real life came on, and grad school took over, and I was constantly looking for more speed. So I left the retro scene, but I'm an engineer at NASA, so it's a pretty good gig. So can't complain. And I got back in around 2015, and then I don't know, fell in league with Tom and others on this project. So
Yeah.
We got a rocket scientist.
I mean, come on.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's access to real retro stuff.
You know what? All I have to say is the U.S. government does a lot of things great and it does a lot of things bad. But two of my favorite U.S. departments are the National Park Service, and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
very much for your service to our country and to the world. You are awesome.
Oh, it's my privilege. Thanks.
Indeed.
So, let's talk a little bit about where we are, and then we'll come back to our guests because I want to give them as much of a spotlight time as we can tonight because FujiNet is a very large, complicated project. So we're going to do a little bit of a truncated. What are we up to, Javier? What you doing? What's on your plate tonight? What are you doing?
Okay, so quickly. I've been just busy with a lot of things at home, but I've been fixing joysticks.
Oh, imagine that, Javier fixing joysticks.
Yeah.
What else is new?
It's kind of your thing,
New.
man.
I got this. It's beautiful, man. I got it from Europe,
Mhm.
and I wanted to work for Apple too. And one of the what am I saying? The internal ones, the move thing. It's
Tensiometer.
that one. Thank you. It's bad. So everything else works, but one of this is bad. So I gotta look for a replacement or something like that. But other than that,
The mythical 150K potentiometer that no longer exists and nobody makes.
Yes.
Thank you, Waz. We love you.
Then
What am
I-
I going to use? A cheap one in the catalog, and I'll make the rest of the circuit around it. Okay.
No kidding.
and it's a pain to get them. And the
Yeah.
worst part is the pain, not just to get them, but when you get a 150, it won't fit. It has like special connectors, something like that. So it's a pain.
The only thing worse is to try and get potentiometers for a pair of Atari paddle controllers.
Yeah, I'm sure. So that's it. I've been doing a lot of little projects. I've been trying to, for lots of times, to do the little ROM XC. I've been trying to get the Spanish keyboard into the ROM XC, trying to copy the ROM, and so we can import it. And the guys are being very nice to help me, but I haven't been able to achieve it. So that's another one that I gotta figure it out. But other than that, I'm good. That's it.
Good.
I will want somebody is asking in the chat. There's Z80 on the background. Was a 6502 hard to find? They're making a joke about our wonderful background for our channel. That is actually the soft card 3 for the Apple III.
Oh,
That
Yep.
particular picture is my clone that I have made for the soft card 3. JCM-1.com. Go pick one up today. Moving on.
So don't say anything bad or Joe will get mad at you.
Yeah, grr or something.
Grr.
Me mad? I don't get mad. I just walk away to everybody
You
else.
say thingamaboober thing.
Yeah.
Oh, what? What are you talking about? What? What?
What?
Nothing. Go ahead, Rudy.
So, Rudy, what's going on in your world?
Oh, well, today I'm just finishing up working on a new video for the Tiny Comp. Finally, a Tiny Comp is a very small unit that does an RF to composite modification. So I've done a Atari 2600 console, an Atari 600 XL, and a Timex Sinclair 1000, and they're available on Joe's site, JCM-1.com.
JCM-1.com. Yes.
Right. So I'm working on that video, and I've been playing around with something else, which I will talk about later.
Awesome sauce. Cool beans.
Joe, what about you?
What about me? I'm weird.
Okay, next.
What's going on? No, seriously, I've got just lots of craziness. I got a lot of boards in to fix for folks this last couple weeks. 3 Apple II GSs, 2 of which got working, and 1 I want to light on fire with gasoline because it's pain in the butt. But other than that, somebody sent me, and this will be the first time ever that I have personally touched one, a complete, perfectly, as a matter of fact, I will show it to you because this is awesome. A complete, perfectly clean, unmodified, original Macintosh 128K board.
Yep.
Wow.
They're like, can you test it? I'm like, I tested it, and it works perfectly fine. Flawless, without a single error. The thing is like immaculately perfect.
Wow.
Treated that with kid gloves. Normally, I would ultrasonic those. I cleaned that by hand with a brush. because
Now just take the whole damn thing and encase it in argon so it never
there you
degrades.
go. But they sent me a whole bunch of those. I streamed some repairs of that and stuff. Other things going on. I have a new keyboard encoder on jcm-1.com for the Datanetic style keyboard, which is interesting because there's also somebody else who's doing an actual Datanetics keyboard.
Yeah.
Clone
I saw that
on the Apple II enthusiast forum. So I was like, I want to do the chip, and then somebody else is doing the whole board with the replacement chip. So it's kind of a weird thing, but whatever, it's fine. Blue Scuzzy stuff is going on. There's lots of cool speed updates and stuff, and I'll just do that. I wonder what we're doing on the background of that. Somebody sent me one of these beautiful things. Again, people just send me stuff.
Nice.
This gentleman is probably in the chat who sent that to me. Just things. The Titan 3 board set, I've got more progress done on that. If anybody doesn't know what that is, again, that turns your Apple 3 into an Apple IIe. So that's progress, and that's what's going on in Joe's
World.
So now that we've got you all up to date on what's going on, I want to hand this back over to these wonderful two gentlemen, Tom and Jeff, because we want to talk about FujiNet. They have a cool video about FujiNet out there. I'll see if I can, while they're talking, I'll drop the link in the chat there so people can see it later. But basically, FujiNet allows you to connect old computers together over the internet using a well-defined centralized protocol that started out for Ataris, but is now being spread around all over the place. So imagine an Atari, a Commodore 64, and an Apple IIe all walk into the bar, and they complain that I'm better than you, you're better than me, but they're actually able to talk to each other because they're connected via FujiNet. That's kind of what it is. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to you guys and let you start introducing FujiNet and let everybody know what it is. So whichever one of you wants to be full screen, you let me know, and you'll be full screen, and we'll let you talk.
I guess.
You want to take it, Tom?
You want to go, Thomas?
Okay. So, FujiNet. What is FujiNet? It is a wireless network adapter for your 8-bit computer. We started off on the Atari, and we branched off onto other systems as well. So what does that actually mean? Well, first and foremost, it gives you the ability to, if I can, go ahead and I'll just take it off of me. Nobody wants to see my face. It gives you the ability to load virtual disk software so that you can take and stream software over the internet. If you want to, no problem. It gives you the ability to take and have a virtual printer so that you can take and print something from something like, say, Print Shop, whatever, bounce that out to a PDF, and Bob's your uncle, bam, render it off. It also gives you a virtual network adapter. And the network adapter is actually going to take some explaining, because what it actually is, it's an intelligent network adapter that offloads all of the heavy lifting of protocols. TCP, UDP, HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, SMB, all these different protocols, offloads all of that onto this nice little microcontroller that's sitting on this thing right here to do all the heavy lifting and providing a nice, clean I/O channel for the computer. Now, Jeff has been working for the last few months on bringing up. Well, actually, yes, we started this one in December or January, if I remember correctly, and basically bringing up the first Apple II version of this, which uses the Smart Port. And for development here, what we actually have here is this is a revision 1.0 FujiNet here. That's normally for Atari. There's the Atari peripheral connector right here, and we actually have this pod that we normally use for a logic analyzer, and I plugged it into an IDC to DB19 connector back here on the back. It plugs into the Smart Port. And what Jeff has been able to do is nothing short of miraculous. And basically, at first we were bit banging the Smart Port protocol directly over the GPIO. But thanks to some wonderful innovations that have happened over the last couple of weeks, Jeff figured out how to use and abuse the SPI hardware on the ESP32 to take and talk SmartPort. So we're basically, SmartPort runs at 250 kilobits per second. Well, the SPI is running at about 1 megahertz, and we're basically just banging out 4 bits for every pulse that goes across the SmartPort, more or less.
Awesome.
So what does this thing actually look like?
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yes.
We do have a question from the chat. They're asking, we're maybe a little ahead of ourselves, but I wanted to get the question out there while it's still on the screen. Can the current FujiNet hardware be used on an Apple II, or is new hardware required? Was the question.
Well, if someone were to take the FujiNet 1.0, they could take and put one together. And there are other members of our Discord who have taken DevKit C modules that are on breadboards and basically built up enough so that they can help with the bring up. Cool. But we are going to be making a specific hardware version for the Apple II SmartPort. Yep, and that's a DevKit C module right there on breadboard. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Put it on breadboard or breadboard optional. And in that case, I think he's just got the wires coming off of it with the resistor right there. The schematic's very simple. And Moswald literally just as of last night put together a preliminary schematic for what we think we're going to be going forward with on this version of the FujiNet. In parallel with this one, we also have a version that is, hold on a second, I'll bring it over here. We have a version that is happening for the, if I can hear, 1 second. There we go. We have a version for the Atari links as well.
Sweet.
For the COM links. And Marvel just built the board for that one last week, and he finally has everything plugged together. Okay. So we have multiple bring-ups happening. If anybody wants to help with any of the bring-ups, come onto the Discord. Okay, so what does this thing do? Now, first thing I'll do is I will bring up a little window here for the Apple II. And what we've actually got right here is the config program. And what's actually happening here, the floppy, there's nothing in the floppy drive here, so it will go to the next SmartPort device. And if we boot, you'll see that the FujiNet basically takes over at this point. And it starts enumerating a set of devices. Now, you'll see that we have, in addition to the disk 3.5 right here that's usually on this machine, we have 4 virtual FujiNet disk devices. And we also have the network device, which is another SmartPort device. You're presented with what's essentially a screen of 2 parts. The first is what's called the host list. And this is where you take and pull software from. You put host names into host slots here, and then you can access the files that are contained on those host slots. The network protocol that we use is called TNFS. It stands for Trivial Network File System. And it was something that was borrowed from the ZX Spectrum community. Very simple file sharing protocol. Let's go to Apple apps here. Actually, no. Better server. Let's go. I'll go here because this server is acting a bit better. I'm going to take and move the rest of my servers over to NYC1 here when this is all done. But let's go ahead, and for our first demonstration here, we'll pick up a copy of Total Replay here. And we'll put it into disk slot number 1. Now, what's actually happened here is it's connected and it has mounted that disk image, which means that when we boot, it's going to take and read the sectors off of that disk image over the network and stream them over the network. So we go ahead and press escape, and you can kind of see the text in the background as it's loading blocks. And this is being loaded off of the internet, off of a cloud server off of DigitalOcean, directly onto this Apple II here.
That is crazy.
And the Apple II is none the wiser.
Because it just thinks it's a smart port block device. It's like, oh, this is a drive. Give me data.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Ah, that's awesome.
The first time we did that, I guess I did that. The first time I did that, I shot a handheld shaky video that someone sent to Woz.
Oh, wow.
And his response was insane.
Yeah.
That's just one word, insane.
Hey, if you can impress the man,
yes,
you've done a good job.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wow.
So, there we go. We've just loaded a game directly off of Total Replay off of the internet. It could have come from it came from the internet, but it could just as easily have come from this card slot right here. It could come from a local TNFS file server here in the lab. Doesn't matter. It's none the wiser.
Cool.
So I wish I could show the virtual printer stuff here, but it's not ready for the Apple II yet. We're still trying to figure out how to take and best expose that. So for the next bit, what I'll actually do is I'll push the reset button here. We'll Control Open Apple Reset here, come back to config, and we will go, and I'll pull up another.
Tom, we should probably describe config a little bit. It's a Apple II program.
Yes.
Written in CC65. So when the FujiNet first starts up, it's acting like the main disk.
Yes.
And it'll boot off of that.
Yep. The whole purpose of config is literally so that you can do all of the functions of mounting disks to slots directly, so that you can do that directly on your Apple II. Now, in addition to that, you also actually have, I may actually just take and you also actually have a web interface as well. So let me open that up.
You're living dangerous. Does the web work on the Apple II? I don't know.
Yes, it does.
Good. And see, Eric asked if it works with the 2GS, and yes, I've tested it with 2GS, ROM 1 and ROM 3, I think.
That's crazy.
So
we have about 4 other people on the Discord that are helping with testing. So we've got it tested on a 2 Plus with soft, DIY soft smart port, a 2E. We're getting a 2E tested. Of course, the C Plus, and the GS.
What about the Apple III?
We need someone to help, because if someone will let me borrow an Apple III for a bit, I'll write the damn driver.
No,
yeah.
You don't have an Apple. Oh, I don't want it anymore then.
There might be a guy on the screen right now who happens to own 2 Apple IIIs who might be able to help you.
Okay.
So let me know later and we'll talk.
Okay, will do. So the point of the, in addition to the Apple-based config here that you see, there's also the web-based interface as well. So you can, by the same token, go ahead and mount from the web as well. Take care of all of that. Pick up your printed output, whatever. And we said we were living dangerously.
It drops the printed output into the FujiNet device, and then you can go to the FujiNet's web interface to then grab that printed file.
Correct.
Awesome.
Correct. And in order to facilitate that, this was actually Jeff's baby, and how he came onto the project in the first place, because he wanted to do printer emulation, and we talked back and forth on how we were going to do that. And I made the suggestion of, well, why don't we try doing PDF? Well, neither of us had actually done PDF document generation, so we all had to kind of start digging through the dark corners of the web to see how to put together a PDF document. And so, yeah.
And the code contributor list got longer.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, so the ESP just builds up a PDF file. And I've got, well, I think we've emulated maybe every Atari printer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Built fonts for a lot of them. And yeah, it was really cool to, just resurrect the old 40 column Atari printer that has sideways printing.
Yes.
We also did the little plotter.
Yep,
that
the 1020
Atari and the Commodore have that. Yep. And that outputs SVG files.
Yes.
Instead of PDF. And then the OkiMate 10.
Yeah, OkiMate 10 with full color support.
With full color support that actually works.
Yes. That was freaky. We ran the test programs and it's like, wow.
Yeah, so if we can
one at a time.
if we can recruit some master guru to add printer support to ProDOS via smart ports.
Yes.
That would be a very interesting trip down the firmware.
Yes.
Hi, ProDOS. Can we convince you that PR4 isn't actually slot 4 and is some other completely wacky thing? Thanks.
Yes. I think it's doable. We just have to do some digging.
With the driver. Yes, with the driver wedge. Yeah.
Yep, it's doable. We just got to do some digging. So
pretty extensible that way. So.
Oh yeah. So let me go ahead, bounce back to where I was.
There are a couple guys looking at building a card version that has printer firmware, smart port firmware on it. Of course, that doesn't work in the 2C, but it worked for the other machines.
So just one card, you slap it in any of the machines, and it'll just basically it has everything as a single unit. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's challenging to interface the ESP32 to a parallel bus without a lot of glue logic or maybe even CPLD. The spirit that we've approached this project has been to keep it really simple. Right so far, no FPGAs, no programmable logic. It's all firmware. I'm thrilled that we've been able to get SmartPort working just through C++ coding.
Yeah,
and because it keeps it accessible to people who want to come help.
Mm-hmm.
It's
like, here, have this FujiNet. Good luck trying to figure out what that means. Have a nice day. Yeah, it's just you can just read it, modify. Yeah.
That soft SP card, it's like a grappler card, isn't it? So it's a printer card.
There's different ones. Kabuk's got like the soft SP, which is a little ROM on a card that goes in, and then others have. I guess Peter has taken that firmware and then remapped the addressing. So he has a version that'll plug into a Grappler Plus. So the Grappler Plus is just a carrier.
You're lobotomizing the card.
Yeah, I've got an SCC or SS Super Serial card doing the same. That's in my 2 Plus. It's a shame. I bought a Grappler Plus so I could get the ROM. I got to get the ROM burned because I'd like to turn the serial card back into a serial card. But because ADT, despite this, ADT Pro is still kind of fun. But
So basically, what they're doing is they're taking any card that's got a 256 byte ROM space, ROM chip, or whatever the Apple II's thing is, and you're just putting the firmware on that card. And despite the rest of the hardware on that card, it's basically just a program that allows for that interface. Is that the way it works? Yeah.
Yes. And in this case, it implements the SmartPort protocol converter. So yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool beans.
Yep.
Just making sure.
So Tom showed you remote booting over the cloud. Are you going to show the Netcat next?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So this is fantastic. So this is brand new capability developed originally for the Ataris and now on the Apple. And this is what makes FujiNet really unique.
Yeah. And if I may, so basically every FujiNet target has Netcat on it. Right now, that's basically Atari, Atom, Apple II. if I could figure out a keyboard for the links, it would be there too. But essentially, it's a simple, if you've ever used NC under Linux, it's the same program essentially. It opens up a socket to wherever you want to go in both directions for input and output, and allows you to interact. And the way that this actually works, we have our network card does all of the protocol abstractions itself. So what it's asking for right here, it's found the network card and it's asking for a network URL. And the current convention is that the network URLs start with n:, and then we have a protocol. Well, in this case, we're going to connect to FOSTEX, and we'll use the Telnet protocol adapter. We give it an address. Close it off. And when we connect, it's as if we took and made that connection over a modem just fine, doing all of the protocol abstractions, everything itself.
So everything going back and forth here is going back and forth on the smart port using the character mode commands.
Yes, we're honestly, I think we are the first. I think we're the first major smart port character device that's going to go out into the wild here, because Apple didn't make any.
So you're basically using a function that was designed into the smart port that no one ever used.
Yes.
Because everybody just used it as a block device.
Yes.
You're using it in character mode instead, like as if it were just any other COM port like modem.
Yes, exactly. So the interesting thing here is I'm showing Telnet and with bbsfostex.com because we're still ironing out the bits of the interface here, but the protocol could just as easily be. Come on, oops. Learn to type there.
Just open Facebook.
Yeah. Well, something, it could be, you could be pointing to a website, you could be pointing to a file on an FTP server, you could be opening an SSH connection. It doesn't matter. The semantics are the same for every single protocol. And we also have a bit of an interface that's available on the network adapter so that protocols that expose file systems such as FTP, WebDAV, TNFS, SMB, NFS, that sort of thing, it will provide the necessary controls so that you can do things like rename files, delete files, etc., and expose those things to the underlying operating system. For example, on the Atari, we expose all of this as an end device on the Atari with all of these controls available so that you can access network devices exactly the same as you would a disk device. There's really no difference from the user's perspective. And some of the demos that we've done before have been things like loading up a copy of Atari Writer and modifying a file on a web server and saving it back with no intermediate steps in between.
That's cool. That is awesome.
Very cool.
Adam has a question about smart port support. Does it allow JZ chaining right now? Could you do multiple other devices in the smart port chain while this is still active?
Yeah, so I'd say it's not yet. We're not gonna promise that yet. It's in the plans. So Tom's 2 Plus has I think it's a Unidisc, right? So it has 3.5-inch drive.
Yes,
that's a smart port device because it shows up in his listing. So that's there. We don't have, so our first version of hardware that we're going to put out won't explicitly allow daisy chaining. I think it might be possible to put it at the end of a chain, but nothing after it. It's going to be for the early adopters.
Yes.
Want to jump on board, and if all you're looking to do is load Total Replay off the cloud and have a lot of gameplay, then that's great. And if you want to get in, it's good. And then I still have more. I've been reading a lot about daisy chaining, and of course trying to learn a lot from Big Mess of Wires blogs. Because I know he had a lot of fun getting floppy EMU, and what a great device that thing is. For the different revisions, and it's just rock solid. Yeah. So I'm not going to promise it yet.
We're going to figure out what we can and try to bring the best that we can to Apple II users as best we can.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Will we be able to download Total Replay from NASA.gov?
No.
Oh wow. No.
What? At least can we download Star Trek from NASA.gov?
Yeah. Only on your break.
Rudy is a Canadian, so he doesn't know how things operate down here. So.
We contribute the Canada arm, so
that's right. Great piece of hardware.
So that's I have a potentially related question, maybe. What is the plan or the current capability of FujiNet to allow two FujiNet-based devices to talk to each other that are on, how can we say, disparate hardware? Is there any sort of like concept?
We've already proven that it works. In fact, there's a video where I did a version of Connect 4 for the Atari, and there was one done for the Coleco Atom, and they talk over TCP. And the protocol is just a straight text protocol. The funny thing is, and this is like, really get this in your head here. The Atari version of Connect 4 was written in BASIC. And it's talking TCP to the Atom version, which was written in C. To run on the Atom. It has no issues. They both talk the same protocol. So as far as they're concerned, they're playing a game against each other. It doesn't matter as long as the protocol is close enough. Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's what I say.
That is insane. Because basically, what's the old computer science adage? There is no problem in computer science that cannot be solved without another layer of indirection.
Yes.
You've added all of these layers to make the computers not understand. They don't care. To each end, they're talking to their best pal.
Yeah.
And
that's
all the
exactly right.
They make it. It's like kiss, make it occur. That is insanity.
Exactly.
Translate.
And here's the important thing. One of the use cases that was really important to me. I have a friend. Some of you may know him. He's part of the Antic podcast. Name's Kay Savitz.
Oh yeah, Kay. Yeah.
And one of the use cases literally was so that somebody like Kay Savitz could write a FujiNet networked game in BASIC for the 10-liner BASIC contest. So, and that's been kind of that's been the central theme. So when we deal with each target, we try to take and use what's available on the target machine as much as we can to provide a nice base for the system interface. Then on top of that, we figure out, okay, how can we take and integrate this into other things, such as integrating it into BASIC. And on the Apple, this is going to be possible because we'll be able to take and have hooks into BASIC system to do things like opening the network socket, sending and receiving data, checking status, all of those things. So you will be able, if you want to take and write an IRC client in BASIC, if you want to take and write a program that talks to your OneDrive or your Google Drive, sure, you can do that. And the reason I can say that you can do that, and that brings up to the next point here. Two things. The FujiNet can handle crypto. It does SSL, does TLS.
Nice.
That alone puts it above the Ethernet 2 and the CS800 based Ethernet cards.
Bad joke. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
You said crypto, I had to make the joke. Continue.
No Ethereum. Yeah.
If someone wants to write a Bitcoin miner, more power to them.
Well, they're going to need the power in order to get anything out of it.
You might mine a coin in 6 million years, but go ahead. And the other thing, okay, so first thing is it supports crypto. It does that just fine. The other thing is that we supply on the firmware JSON and XML parsers.
Oh, nice.
Let that sink in for a second.
Nice. Huge.
So now you have the ability to take and communicate directly with modern web endpoints without overwhelming the memory space of your computer. Because I don't know if you've ever seen most JSON dumps from most websites. Say you were trying to get all of the tweets in the last hour from Twitter, that would easily be a few megabytes. So you have the ability to take that data, you can query for the data that you want, send that down the I/O channel, and deal with it at your leisure, which I will demonstrate to you right now with another program that we kind of threw together.
Demos.
Called the ISS Tracker.
That works in the Apple II?
Yes.
It does now.
Javier suddenly very happy.
Well, that's right, Javier. You saw this at the VCF East, right?
Right, that's right.
Atari.
I didn't knew you were a NASA engineer. If not,
I didn't write it. I think Bill wrote it, right? Kendrick?
Yeah, Bill Kendrick wrote the Atari version. And as a matter of testing the stack, I've been taking ISS and porting it to the other systems. So what is actually happening here is it's grabbing the current ISS position and timestamp from a JSON endpoint, parsing that, and shipping that over to the Apple II.
that's amazing.
This opens up a whole new direction that we've never been able to go into with 8-bit machines before.
My only concern is for the flat earthers. They're not going to believe it. But hey,
Yeah,
Well, your screen's flat.
So
You got a flat monitor, you're good.
Yep.
Darn Mercator has been making people think wrong things for 1,000 years. Anyway,
yeah,
What's really cool with this is that then you could actually just read in raw data from some, weather channel or something like that, some weather station, and actually show live weather information time on
Like
your
the-
computer. That's so cool.
that's another one of our programs too. We have an interface to Open Weather that we've ported to the Atari and to the Atom. Now I need to do the Apple II port.
Because that'd be great. You can then take your Atari or your Apple, leave it in your living room, and say, "Hey, here's the weather."
Yes, exactly.
Brought to you by 8-Bits.
retroweather.com.
I
Hold on,
love
let
it.
me get registered to that.
Yeah.
So
That's
what
sweet.
we need now, and what we're really looking for, is we're looking for interested hackers to handle two sides of the equation here. One, of course, taking and writing Apple side programs, of course. Making new programs, it's easy. The programming interface is easy. And once we get BASIC integrated, you can even do it in BASIC if you want, no problem, whatever. But we also want people who would be interested in working on the firmware side of it too, because we're only barely using a third of our available firmware space on this device at this moment. We deliberately did not do over-the-air updates so that we could take and maximize the amount of firmware space that we had inside this device. And we're looking at roughly 16 megabytes worth of flash. Some of them are 4, some of them are 8. The big ones are 16. So the point being, new protocol adapters, making protocol adapters to talk to Google Drive, to OneDrive, et cetera, so that we can take and allow other people to take and build programs with these protocol adapters. And they'll be available for all the targets. And, when I literally say the goal here, I said this before we started the show, the goal with the FujiNet project is to take and bring FujiNet to every single 8-bit computer and console. No exceptions. Even the Mattel Aquarius. Bless its heart.
Oh my God.
It tries so hard. It tries so hard. It fails
so hard, and we're going to give it something special.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Even my crappy old K Pro.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's we have on the boards. There's a group right now that's working on the ZX Spectrum version that'll plug into the bus there. Now that one's going to have interesting ramifications. Yes, we got a +2 over there in the corner. Very nice. Yes, lovely machine.
Show off.
Yeah, and that's going to have wonderful ramifications, because once we figure out how to get these things onto parallel buses, every machine that's got a parallel bus will be able to benefit from the work that we're doing on the ZX Spectrum, because arguably it's the most cantankerous bunch of the bunch. Because of all of the contended memory areas and all of this stuff. So that's how we're going to get this onto every machine. I want to get this onto S100 machines so we can put it on Altair. Just keep going. Heathkit, H8, H89 machines, everything. We have a guy, Jamie Johnson, who has volunteered his time and energy splitting between FujiNet and his project called Meatloaf to do a Commodore version, which will be for IEC and eventually IEEE 488 as well. So we are going everywhere. And you saw the goofy breadboard of the Lynx version right there. So,
what about Coco?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you should work on the Kim 1 next.
Dude, the Kim one's got a bus. We'll do it. Yeah.
I know.
Dude,
hey, you know what?
AIM 65, baby.
That was Sean's idea.
I've got my JCM1 single board computer. Maybe we can get FujiNet on that sometime. If you can make it work for the Kim 1, you're going to be able to make it work for that, because it's basically.
Yes. Now here's another thing to note too. The ESP32 has, and we've alluded to this before, the ESP32 has SPI hardware. So if you're able to put together an SPI interface, we can shove data down it.
Here's something I found out very interestingly. Sidebar: developing my JCM1 computer, I control digital potentiometers for the stereo panning of the audio circuit using SPI mode 0, I think. It's a 0 or 1. I'll have to go look at my specs. Using the 6522 chip directly.
Nice.
The 6522 has a mode that is effectively one of those slower SPI modes.
Yeah, it's the shift register.
Like synchronous serial,
It bangs it out and does it. Yep. So right there you go. If you've got a machine with a 6522 and a pin that you can talk to, it'll do it. So,
done. Yep. And that's another thing to it.
It's effectively the way we're using the SPI on the Apple II is for the output from the FujiNet back to the Apple II. I was bit banging that GPIO and very successfully, and then the Espressif did a silicon upgrade
change,
and the bit banging was no longer reliable, even with everything, all the task switching, all the interrupts, everything turned off. It would just every once in a while it would hang. It would hang up. and
we couldn't figure out why.
Yeah, and it was these dev kit C's, which are the ones that you can get now. And by the way, so somebody's asking, there's a link that was put in the chat. Make sure you buy the Rover, not the Room.
Yes,
but
you want that PS RAM. we use it. We use that PS RAM.
We do, and so things I've learned about the Apple II since I started this. So the IWM chip, or the state machine, right on the Disk 2 controller, it wants to see these roughly 1 microsecond pulses coming back from the Disk 2.
It has to be exact or bad occur. Yep.
Yep. It amazes me that those are set with potentiometers and 555 timers, one-shot timers, basically.
Yeah.
And so on the SPI, so I just brute force it, and I take 1 byte and I encode it as 32 bits, because it's 8 bits, and each bit needs to be either 4 microseconds of dead air or a 1 microsecond pulse inside of a 4 microsecond window. So everything's coded as hex 4s all over the place, and it just shoves it right out the port.
Yep. And you run the SPI at 1 megahertz to take and throw data out at effectively 250 kilobits per second.
Yeah.
Yep.
Basically, you're maxing it at you're saturating it at max bus speed, and it
Yep.
just does it.
Well,
the 1 microsecond? No, the SPI on the ESP32 can do 40 megabits.
Yep.
Well, I'm talking about is maxing out the Apple IIs.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I want to barf data at you. Take data or else.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And so far, the reading, which is the inverse of bit banging, bit reading, I guess, or whatever you call it, is doing okay. I think it's possible to use the SPI to read. I just have to read the data, like basically Nyquist sample the data coming in and
do it backwards.
Just have to run like a decoder on it if I have to. But we're not
getting fancy now talking about Nyquist encoding.
Sorry about that.
Well, treat it like a treat it like a sampling problem.
Yeah, you're treating it like it's an audio file, and you're picking up the waves as they go, and yeah.
I have a question for the guests. So, do you envision that you'll be able to buy 1 unit that you can then share between your, let's say, your 2C and your Atari 600XL, or do you have to buy adapters, or do you have to buy individual units?
Well, that's the goofy thing. We found that every single target has had to need its own particular bus configurations in terms of how it needs to be isolated from the bus, etc. And if there's a good way we can put that into hardware as adapters, we will definitely look at it. But for right now, what we're looking to do is to make the FujiNet as cheap as possible, so you don't sweat having to buy more than one.
I think in the long run, for users, it's actually more cost effective to have separate units, because otherwise we end up with this big, cables and connectors are expensive.
They are.
And
dear God.
Right?
Well, we've had
this ESP chip is one of the least expensive parts.
Dear God.
On the thing, and there is somebody in Spain, producing trying to make like a modular system.
Yep.
And great, it's awesome because it's an open source hardware and software project, so people can take it and expand on it or produce it. It's fantastic, but I think in the long run, it's more cost effective. That the Atari needs, Atari uses a 5-volt serial open collector, driver bus to handle multiple devices. The smart port, the daisy chaining, wouldn't work. It'd be very hard to make it work. The Commodore 64, which is being worked on, has this bi-directional IEC serial bus that's just not really compatible. It's hard to make it work.
Or functional. Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah, dude, it was
across the bow.
Yeah, if the VIA hadn't had that shift register bug, it would have been fine.
Oh yeah, it would have been awesome. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point you made. That if you're having different units for different platforms, and they're not like you're not charging $1,000 each,
Nope.
then you can actually have your 2C and your 600 XL Atari and your Commodore PET all talking together at the same time. That's gonna be so amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Really,
And
really
the big thing that I really need to stress here, it's been mentioned that this is an open project. That is 1,000% true. It's open to the point where the hardware design is completely open, the firmware is completely open, all of the decision-making processes and everything that we do is compulsively open, to the point where I have a thing where I don't take private messages from people for things that could be worked out in public, and I try to bring that into the public space. But also, we actively work with vendors in every single community, with the existing vendors, to try and get them to be able to come up to speed to make these devices and to provide them to their users. And more importantly, to have multiple sources to get a FujiNet from for multiple devices, so that we can combat things like somebody not having time to be able to keep up with demand, or those mythical chip shortages that seem to happen all of a sudden. So and for all of this, we don't ask for anything. No licensing, no nothing, because for us this is for us, for those of us working on the project, our income comes from elsewhere, and this is this, for me at least, this is soul repair. This is very important soul repair.
very
I
nice.
need to
Very
do
cool.
this.
I call it fun.
Yes, it is fun.
but yeah,
It's a really cool way to give back to the community of all different communities, not just the Apple or the Atari, but all communities. So
I love all you guys. I love every
What's
single retro computer in the world. I
Don't
want to
lie.
provide
You
for all
hate
of them.
what?
I'm kidding. I'm being silly.
for me, I love the to me it's like the DIY spirit. I mean, that's what really attracted me to it. When I finally got back in the retro scene and I bought a Atari 130XE, no disk drive. The guy's like, doesn't have a disk drive. No, that's okay. And I went home and I got out an Arduino and an SD card reader, and I built IO to Arduino, and that's how I got that machine booted. And
Sweet.
and this it was actually using this same Arduino, but now this is configured as SmartPort SD, and that's how I got the Apple II Plus booted on SmartPort, was off of this, and Kat and Peter helped me get it up running, and then so Tom talked about like when we started, I had to go on Christmas vacation, so I set up my home machine with my home development machine with a logic analyzer and ESP32 hooked up to it, put it on VPN, so I would log in, and that's how I developed the code to transmit first, to bang the
Over a VNC connection.
to get it all started. Yeah, to get it all started, and then got back in town, and we picked it up. So we've been working since December, basically.
Yes.
And
Gosh, you guys have made a lot of progress in 6 months. That is that's incredible.
Yeah. I want
and it takes. I mean, it's the team. So I saw Mosweld. Mosweld's in here. Shout out. He's in the chat. Shout out to Mosweld,
Yes.
our hardware designer. I'll show you some of the things he's made.
Mosweld is Mozart with surface mount.
Yeah, I don't have any bare boards, but so this is the
Atari FujiNet 1.6.
yeah, this is the latest version, the
Do I have
1.6.
Hold
He
on.
has a so 3D printed SIO connectors. You know the strange connectors there, and the nice XL styling here. He has a version with an external antenna. If you're a little far from your Wi-Fi, you need a rubber ducky antenna. You can stick it on there. He made this one custom. This was one of our first ones here. that I can't think in mirror image. Sorry.
It's an ice cream sandwich.
This is the ice cream. This is the black marble with the granite connectors. But this was an early model. See, before those, this was made by Mr. who is this? Mr. Robot, I think, made these for us. This is an 8266 carrier. That's what we started on. If you're familiar with the ESPs, there's a single core system called 8266, and it was good enough to get started. But
then we had to go implement PDF and blew our memory capacity right out the window.
Needed more space, and then we had to get the PS RAM because one day Tom sends me a message and said, "Hey Jeff, look, Sam has been ported to C, software automatic mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been someone took the assembly, put it into C." So over a weekend, I grabbed that C code and encapsulated it, made a library, and the Atari's got an audio in right on the SIO port. So we had the thing talking.
Sweet.
You would just print. You just print to printer 4 or whatever it was. I don't know, for the demo.
P4.
P4. I just for the demo, I just hooked it up to P4. So if you print anything to P4, it talks back. It just says it back to you. It's stuck. We haven't changed the firmware. That's the way it is.
That's awesome.
And
worked.
The Apple II first revision, the Rev Dash, is going to have a little header for the DAC output. So if you want to hook it up to a amplifier, hook up to your own equipment at your own risk. But we could. But
so you can't drive a speaker directly with it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yes. We
can make a device, and you can do an MLI smart port call.
That's
and
insane.
have Sam start talking.
Yep.
Yeah, crank it up to number 11 and play for the neighbors. Hey, you kids, get off my lawn.
You kids get off.
Hey, you kid.
Well, one of the things we actually have it for, on the Atari is if you have multiple discs in a slot, so you've got Ultima, disc A in slot 1, disc B in slot 2, disc C, you can take and press button A and it will rotate the discs for you so the next disc is in the list, but Sam will announce over the speaker, disc 2, disc 3.
That is so awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was one of those. It was like, oh yeah, we can do that. Oh, I was going to show you. You were showing some of the earlier FujiNets. I have right here in my hand the very, very, very first one. This is what we had. So this is why I would call it Rev 0. And you can see this is some of Maswald's wire wrapping down here below. And you'll see that there's a pin that's just kind of broken on this connector. If I can get it into, where's the camera? There we go.
Yep, we see it. There it is.
Yes. That pin broke. Okay. That's the data in port. That's the data in pin that broke. The reason that it broke was I would have to take and disconnect. This connector so that I could take and bring it over to my development system to put new firmware in. And this was during the time when I was still putting together the disk emulation code. And right as I knew it was going to work, everything was checking out. I go to plug it into the Atari and the connector freaking breaks right as I know it is going to work. So I take and I get online with Maswald and I say, please test this firmware and see if it works. And he records us booting Jumpman for the first time over the internet onto the FujiNet. That was November 13th of 2019. So we started this project in August. And the thing, really, it's so funny because this whole thing, if you would have asked where this project would have wound up, I would have never said back then that we would have done what we're doing right now, because we just set out to make a modem. Moswald was off here, off in the
That's
wilderness.
Creep.
He, you know, the Atari had such terrible connectivity options, and there were a couple of us just off in the wilderness building ESP01s and just kind of barely hooking them up to the serial ports and acting like dumb RS-232 connectors. And Moswald's like, well, I could take this ESP12 that has all the I/O pins and take and hook them up to all the I/O connectors on the SIO port here. And this whole crazy thing started with a single question. Hey, Moz, yeah? Did you hook the command pin up? Yeah. Huh. Wonder if I could make this thing act like a disk drive. A week later, yeah. It started booting sectors. So that's how this whole thing just kind of mushroomed in. And Jeff comes into this project about December of 2019, and he's like, I'm going to go do printer stuff. Okay. And he's off here working off in Platform IO. We're still working on Arduino.
Yeah.
And he's building this architecture. He's like, he knows that we're going to have to take and bring all of this stuff together into something better than an Arduino sketch. So he starts building the bus architecture that ultimately we still use to this day. And that became kind of, we all kind of, over the next 2 months, moved over into Platform IO. We were still using the Arduino framework at that time, but we were pushed into, we were moved into Platform IO, and everything was becoming this production-ready framework. And then this other guy came in. We have people that have come in, contributed stuff, and then walked away. One of those such persons was Oscar Fowler, who came in and he looked at what we were doing, and we realized, oh crap, Arduino is too fat. It's causing issues for us. We need to go down. We need to be able to hit the metal when we need to. We need to go to ESP-IDF. So Oscar takes and ports the whole damn thing in one big whump over 2 weeks to ESP-IDF.
It's amazing.
Yes, and it worked the first time.
He abstracted tons of stuff out for us. You know?
Yes. And yeah. And then, just as soon as he did that, he left. Oof, bye. Later.
I know how to do this. I do this thing. I contribute. Hey, yay.
So, and that's really kind of what this whole project's like. I call it a tree fort. We are a gigantic tree fort. People come in, we hack on stuff together. We make cool things. We see what we can do with this stuff. That's it.
Those are some of the best projects.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, I need to give a shout out to so Tom, help me remember everybody. So Ron Klein and
Yep.
Rob Smolderer, Rob J.
Yes, Rob J of SmartPort SD. We're using his code.
Yep, using his code. Yeah, ported his code over. He's been an active tester on our Discord, which is
absolutely. He's a big cheerleader. Yeah.
Yeah. And then giving lots of advice, helping work through switching over to SPI and things. So every once in a while he'd pop in and say, I just looked at the source code and SmartPort should do yada yada yada.
Yes.
One of the hardest things was getting all the ACK and request handshake timing worked out.
Yes.
Every single machine has different timing windows, so having folks try it out on different machines. It wouldn't boot on a 2GS. We looked at the debug. I went and changed a timeout from, I don't know, half a millisecond to a millisecond, and then it worked. So, it's been a really great community and a lot of fun over on the Discord.
Yeah,
not quite as active as the Apple II Slack, but all our development work's going over on the Discord. We do have a FujiNet channel on the II Slack that I try to keep an eye on, so you can always drop in there. But
yes, Yes, and we have the and of course there's the FujiNet Discord as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, we've all come to, we're all able to stare at logic analyzer traces for hours on end and try to get timing correct. Whew.
Been there. Been there.
Oh my word! I just did not understand the IWM, and I have a whole Google Doc of hand decoding a packet coming out of the smart port, trying to understand what the heck is this algorithm.
Yes,
It worked. I got it.
I am absolutely amazed.
Yeah.
I am absolutely amazed that somebody at Apple, it wasn't Woz, but somebody at Apple figured, this, the Apple IIgs firmware manual. Jesus.
I had to print it out. Yeah.
Somebody figured out, this disk controller, maybe we could generalize it. We could use the unused motor phase states to take and implement a whole generalized bus protocol. Why not?
It's neat. We made these breakthroughs. We had to fix this problem of the new ESP version C's, which I think we've got solved, and we got the config program in pretty decent shape.
Yep.
And Tom's got these the network device going, and I need to finish reviewing. I need to review again Moswell's schematic, and we'll get a Rev Dash hardware out for the early adopters, and then I'm going to turn my attention to Disk 2. I really would like to do Disk 2 emulation.
Yeah.
In addition,
and for those that are slow on the uptake here, what we're literally saying is if you don't have a smart port at all and you don't have anything that can bring smart port in, you can at least hook this thing up to a Disk 2 interface and be able to load software with it.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, the config program fits on a 140K image, so
yep.
So you basically bake an image in there that would then allow you to have more direct control over the port or something after the fact or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
nuts.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can auto detect smart port versus Disk 2 and just have it switch on the fly. So we'll see how that goes.
Hopefully.
Wow.
Nifty.
I don't know.
So
I don't know what I'm doing.
Dude, we have been unbelievably lucky. Jesus Christ. It's like, can we do? Yeah, sure. Okay.
I'm trying to remember when I used an Apple II. I think I used an Apple II, in junior high to play Lemonade, because that lab was full of Commodore 64s. So I hadn't used one, and Tom and Moswell conspired and sent me a 2+ and said, "Hey, figure this out. You're up to bat."
Have a nice day.
Yeah, it's been so much fun and a great community, and it's really it's been I've learned so much, and it was great to run into Javier at Vengeance Computer Festival East. Got to demo it to him, and
my channel. Yep.
Yeah, it's on your channel. Yeah, thanks for putting it up there.
Thank you.
It's just so cool.
It was beautiful.
Awesome. So what's next in FujiNet's future, or shall we? Is it more apt to say what isn't next in FujiNet's future?
Well, basically, continue with the Apple II bring up, get it up to snuff. We have the links that has come up quite nicely. I need to finish the software on that side of it. Which, by the way, I will mention the links version, even in this particular form, yes, actually can reflect red-eye packets. So if you take and you specify another player, give the IP address of another player across the net, that means you want to play a game of California Games or Rampart, it will take and reflect the packets over UDP and back. And does that, it slows down a little bit. We're trying to get the timings and everything right, but it works. And the crazy thing is,
That's nuts.
because Comlinks is fire and forget, it works and it doesn't crash. It's amazing that it works at all.
You're basically just converting it from that bit bang kind of protocol in UDP, which is from a logic perspective or from a higher level, it's the same thing. It doesn't care. It's like, go.
Yep. It's just a really freaking long cable.
It's just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to play on my links. We're going to play a little game of Rampart. Where are you, California? Yeah, I'm in Maine. Okay.
Okay, 4,000 miles away, no problem. Twink. That was the crazy thing when we were first bringing up FujiNet, and we were like, we're loading a copy of Jumpman from a server 2,000 miles away on the world's longest SIO cable.
That is nuts.
And the Atari.
I see the comment in the chat about multiplayer Lemonade. There's a group disassembling Mule trying to figure out how to insert UDP calls.
Yes.
Play online Mule.
Yes. Yeah. We want to. We want to try to take and bring. We want to try to take and figure out how to extend existing software and make new software. We want to try and make it as easy as possible to do so.
This sounds like a wonderful side project for 4 a.m. and what's the other gentleman that Peter Ferry? That work together all the time. Oh yeah, I'm just going to take this old game and kind of hack into FujiNet protocol. Yeah, it works great. Oh, and by the way, we optimized the code too, so it's like 10 times smaller.
Or
that's what they do.
Charles Magic did Karateka for 2 players. Maybe we can have Karateka multiplayer.
Yeah, maybe.
Internet-based
I would like to see Lemonade multiplayer with real weather updates.
Nice. Just like Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 with real weather feed.
Actually, what would be really cool is that from my work computer to connect through the Fuji network to my Apple II Plus at home and bring up an RDP window and play Karateka.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Now that's the other thing that I should mention as well. Yes, you can do server connections. So if you want to take and expose a TCP port to talk to, sure, you can take and set up a listen, connect to it, and just bounce. And it just uses the standard IO commands to take and bounce back and forth. So whatever you want to do there. We actually did have somebody who was working on a remote display protocol for the Atari that needs to be finished, but it already works in its present state.
I think he was injecting bytes into the keyboard buffer.
Yes, literally.
So eventually will the units have the ability to be connected through hardwire as opposed to Wi-Fi?
Right now it's Wi-Fi because we don't have the pins left to add an Ethernet PHY. We're using all the I/O as it is. I mean, even with the Apple II, it's like, okay, maybe we need to multiplex some pins.
Yeah, I might need to add a port expander. I'm not sure yet. And if we go to a bus, a parallel bus, we'll have to add something.
We're gonna have to do some serious address decode.
I've been looking at. I bought some, and I want to play with them. The RP, is it 2040? It's
2040s. Oh,
yeah, the Raspberry Pi Pico, because they have these state machines, these cycle exact state machines, and there was a group that took them and made a cartridge emulator with them. So they programmed the 8-bit 6502 bus.
The beautiful thing about the 2040 is that it's got these little state machines that operate entirely independent of the CPU, and they can DMA to and from the CPU on the 2040 at any time. So you can have them if you need them to take and simulate a ROM chip. You can have everything down cycle exact with the timings exactly as you need them, and the PIO will gladly do that asynchronously away from the CPU. It's brilliant, and I want to see that technology float into all of these other microcontrollers, because that is a big game changer. That is a major. It means all the things that you used to have to need CPLDs and FPGAs for, you can delete them and use this cheaper part instead.
Yeah, that, and Eric pointed out that this too is a state machine. The reason I bought these Picos was I wasn't sure if the SPI was going to work for the IWM interface, and that was my next stop, was to start programming up the state machines to send pulses and receive transmissions and do the ACK and request handshaking. We might still do it. I'm not sure.
Well, it was a case of Rob basically coming in and saying, "Oh no, wait, you might want to check this." Okay, now it works. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So basically, this unit will be, once you have it on multiple platforms, will be a floppy disk killer. Yeah. Because now you can create a small FTP server at home, have all your Atari, Apple, Commodore, whatever apps on there. Just turn on your computer and point to the FTP server and pull down whatever you need.
Yep.
So for folks that that want to get into this, I run a TNSF server on a Raspberry Pi Model B, so a really old machine, and I think the thing has been up for over 100 days. It's just rock solid. I run a SMB server on it too, so from my desktop, I just drop images. You can just download them off the web straight to the Raspberry Pi from your desktop, and then immediately boot them off the FujiNet.
Yep,
that's cool.
And if you're an 8-bit developer, you can set up a really nice workflow where you're compiling and you're copying the target. You're copying your distribution image to the TNSF server, and then you just boot up your Apple II or your Atari or whatever, and you can immediately test on real hardware without having to copy to an SD card and move it over and power cycle and all this stuff.
It really brings the turnaround down to zero.
It's
this is a huge game changer for the Metro community. Huge.
Yeah,
yes.
A lot of fun. In fact, that config, that's how I developed config. I was developing config, it was booting itself.
Yep. Yep.
I would make a change and then
That is
reboot.
the number one goal for any software developer. If I can use the software to develop itself, it's perfect.
Yes.
Recursion, baby.
Yep.
That is awesome. Wow. That is the coolest. This is just outstanding.
I only have one last question. Will this eventually be able to plug into Skynet? I hope,
Maybe.
John Connor is going to want to know.
Yeah, dude. Well, considering that we can talk JSON and XML, maybe.
As long as Arnold doesn't come back.
Yeah, sure.
Skynet was going to become sentient, but it decided to pick an Apple II as a node, and it wasn't fast enough. Wow.
We stopped him by typing PR number 6. Okay.
What's that clattering noise? Oh, okay.
So if you don't want to wait for hardware and you want to jump on, get one of these Rover DevKit Cs. I think it's called the VE.
Yes, DevKit CVE. Absolutely.
Yep, and there's like $11, on DigiKey or Mouser. I'm not sure I haven't found them on Amazon recently. You got to be careful which ones you buy because you need enough pins exposed. So I'd get it on like DigiKey or Mouser, and then hop on our Discord. We'll help you get it hooked up.
Yep.
And running. I'll say the only thing
wires
is
across and it just works basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't hook up the 12 volts. Boy, that disk interface is scary.
Yeah. They put a 12-volt rail in the middle of everything.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. I'll tell you, Moswell's Atari design saved somebody because he he's really conscientious about things, and the Atari has all these current limiting resistors on it, the version 1.0, and we were helping somebody get his up and running, and of course he hooks it up backwards and it's not working, and we look at it and say we think it's backwards, but it still works because of all the current limiting resistors, right? I don't know if our Rev, our Rev Dash Apple's going to have all those on there, because we're trying to make it so it's mostly through hole parts. So, if we can't find somebody to pick it up and produce them, at least the circuit boards will be available, and you can get parts and solder it up yourself. But I'm hoping one of the hardware manufacturers will want to
I think someone has already kind of offered. I don't know. His name rhymes with Schmo. I don't know.
I think I have a serious lacking of some really high-end, well-designed kit on jcm-1.com, aside from the Blue Scuzzy. Shout out to Blue Scuzzy, folks. Blue Scuzzy rocks. And, maybe I should look into that. Yeah.
I'll be your first customer.
Cool. Just send $1,000.
Okay.
We'll call that a development fee. There you go.
Yeah. I need one for my Apple II and another one for my TI-99.
Okay.
Because
I need a lot. I need one for my Apple II, my 2E, my 2C, DS, my Commodore 64, VIC-20, Commodore PET 4032, my RC 2014, and a couple extra in case I walk in and see a couple of ATMs that are open.
Like I said, I want to take and put one of these into an Altair just because.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
that'd be sweet.
And like you were saying too, once you crack one of the parallel buses, especially
everything,
it just
and not just computers, but video games. FujiNet for the 2600, FujiNet for. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing. If anybody wonders, I mean, my experience is in crossing platforms. I've dealt in cross-platform development for a significant portion of my career. I mean, the last big project that I did for the retro computing crowd was Errata.online, which ported Plato term to over 40 different systems, all different, with the same core bits of C code. So, I mean, this is doable.
Yep. I think I saw that for the first time at K-Fest 2019. I think
Yes.
Kay did a presentation that for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That was really cool as well. Seeing the Apple. No, I think he cheated. I think he actually brought an Atari because it's K.
Ooh, Atari.
Because he had to. But no, he's showing and it's drawing the logo on the screen live over the internet.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really cool.
Yes.
Yep. Cool. That is super awesome. Well, guys,
Well,
I look forward to hearing more from your project
Definitely.
in the coming months and years, and it's going to get nothing but better from there. I would love to offer my technical capabilities in helping you develop parallel options if I had the time. I have to put the if I had the time. But if I get more time later, I will be reaching out to you guys, because this sounds like something that's really fun that I could help you out with and break one of those barriers. And I also invite anybody in the chat as well, anybody who's watching or anybody comes by to watch later. If you have time and capability and you're like, I want to get back into this hobby full speed. I know how to hook up electronic stuff, or I know how to program 502 code. Reach out to these guys and offer some help, and I'm sure that the community, all of the different communities, will be better for it. So
yeah, I'd love to have you guys back on the show again in the future with updates as to what's going on, what's new, so on. So hopefully you'll be back many times on our channel.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
But if you get, sorry, Joe. But if you get the multiplayer Lemonade with real-time weather, I want on the next channel.
All right, now I'm going to have to do it.
But you have to play 2-player, one on an Apple IIe and one on a Commodore PET 4030.
Okay. All right.
It's a challenge.
Thomas does not seem like the guy who backs down from challenges, Rudy. So
How about we make a 3-person or multi-person and have one person in the ISS connect to it and play? They got time for lemonade.
surprisingly, you could probably do that.
That'd be
We'll set up
awesome.
that ham radio link. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Has anybody noticed that this thing has been regularly updating since we've been talking?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
it
just
started over
marching
in
across
Africa.
there.
It's gone all the way around. Now it's over California. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really, really excellent work, guys.
That is really super cool.
Yeah, it is.
Well, before we leave, I want to give you guys the opportunity, our guests here, to throw links and promotional information out about FujiNet, how people can find it, how they can play with it, how they can participate, how they can watch it, all of that stuff. So you're in the hot seat. Go.
Oh wow, promotion. What is that? Oh wait. So we have the main website is fujinet.online. And from there, you have links to go to our primary shop, which we put units up from time to time to cover development costs. We also have links to the wiki, which is our compendium, ever growing of documentation that we're putting up there on a regular basis. You get the latest firmware updates there, as well as any flashing software that's needed for each of these devices. And the shop also has links to other vendors as well, so that you can take, and if we don't have a FujiNet available, then there's chances are that there are other vendors that have these devices available and in your area. Of course, let's see, what else? The FujiNet Discord. Let me take and go to the Discord real quick and get a link.
I popped it in there earlier.
Yeah.
Now, the next question is who gets there first?
Yeah. Let's see. So, copy topic.
Got it.
Got it. Yep, there you go. Yep. Faster than me. So there you go. So yeah, you've got the Discord, and that's where we take and do the majority of our talking. And I am a very chatty Cathy when it comes to Facebook, Twitter, etc. Whenever anything happens in this project, I tend to wideband, and some people like it, some people not so much. But we'll, whatever. But other than that, it's really very simple. We're just we're just building these things, and as they become available, we let the world know. So, yay.
Apple II
Awesome.
Infinium FujiNet channel.
Ooh, yeah.
And let's see, all the software and hardware design information and source codes on the GitHub.
Yes.
Yep.
FujiNet-hardware, FujiNet-platform.io.
And if you want to get your hands dirty, or you buy a dev kit and you want to get going, we have step-by-step on how to do a bring up, how to install VS Code and IO, and it's but once you get it all set up, it works.
Will this work on my iPhone? No. Would you like to port it to your iPhone? That may not be as far-fetched as you might think, because one of our contributors, Jan Kupa, who actually took the ESP32 version of our firmware and made a PC version that can run on any standard PC that allows you to connect an SiO2 PC interface and bridge over to your Atari that way. Or, and this is the better part, we have an emulator on the Atari side called Altera, which is the best Atari 8-bit emulator out there. If for no other reason than it has an external device interface, so you can take and write code to latch in custom devices. And we have a bridge that goes to Altera, so you can develop your FujiNet code on an emulated Atari and test it there, even if you don't have the FujiNet device. And we would like to bring that to other platforms as well. So if we can find other emulators that we can take and hook FujiNet into, great. You can take our code, steal our code, use it, appropriate it. What's your license? Steal it. Use it.
So FujiNet will become Skynet as
Yeah.
Tech Cowboy, I think. Yeah,
Good to
I
see
know,
you,
man.
Tech Cowboy. Yep.
interesting. At least we could say we saw it first
Yeah.
before it destroyed the world, but it's okay.
Before it destroyed the world.
Hey, you know what? We're already on our way. At this point, anything we do is just helping it happen. So
Yeah, dude.
we might as well have fun on our way there, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Cool.
I have one last quick question. Hopefully it's quick.
Sure.
So what made you guys decide to pick the Atari? Not that it's better or worse than any other, but why did you pick Atari for their original or your initial platform?
Yeah.
Well, Moswald had an Atari. I had an Atari. Jeff had an Atari. And the one thing the Atari didn't have at the time was a decent connectivity solution. So we were
Made
trying to
sense.
solve that problem. Everything else that's happened since then has been an absolute fluke of nature that we can't account for. It just it took on a life of its own.
I think it was fortuitous too, because the Atari operating system,
Yes.
all the devices are essentially
Built
abstracted,
into the ROM.
right? And so the printer, everything goes out this serial port, which is Joe Deker's SIO, which is a forerunner of the USB, and everything's addressed with a letter, basically. So D1 or P or R, and
Yes.
Tom added N, and
Yes.
and that realizing that, then that's when I finally realized, you mean the printer traffic just comes over this serial port and it just has a P in front of it? And it
Yep.
comes in these 40-byte frames.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing I did was just start dumping that to the debug, out the serial port. And it's like, we're going to make a printer.
Yep.
And Tom realized, even before that, he was going to make the end device.
Yep.
So we have all these emulators on the ESP that can be shared across platforms. So all the PDF printers are all accessible by any version of the firmware, and these network protocol adapters too. So I think it was real fortuitous. We started out with Atari.
Yep. So if you want to take and use a Coleco Atom printer on your Apple II, go ahead.
Hopefully we'll make that happen.
So, eventually someone's going to buy a Tesla and stick this thing inside so they can play their Atari games on the big screen they have in the car while it's driving you to work.
Yep.
That's great. Hooked up through your Wi-Fi in the car, right?
That's it. Yep. Off you go.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That is awesome. Well, I would like to thank our wonderful guests, Tom and Jeff, for stopping by tonight to talk about FujiNet. It has been a wonderful whirlwind of a chat tonight, and I look forward to everything that you guys are going to be coming up with in the future. And anybody out there who's listening and watching, feel free to contribute and help with the project if you can, and just the more it is, the better it gets. Our hosts are Javier and Rudy, who isn't looking at the screen because he's busy doing something with his Atari.
Oh, it's a 600 XL. Nice.
Yay! And then me.
Yep.
I'm just Joe. And we had a wonderful time tonight. Everybody who's watching, thank you for stopping by.
Yes.
We have these shows without our audience, of course. Remember to lasso that like button and dig your spur into the subscribe button. There you go. Spur subscribe. There. Yeah. Okay, we've done our Western bit. Thanks all for stopping by, and have a great evening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Ooh.
Yeah.